G'day, HMR here. Well, I found one of the most erroneous paragraphs I've ever found before on the internet without looking for it. But let's dive right into it because the question here is, what are the triggers to borderline personality disorder? And in this place where I read this, they seem to be asking what triggers people having borderline personality disorder, not just what are the triggers in borderline personality disorder. So we have a real genius here. I shouldn't say it that way, right? But I'm being sarcastic as you know what. So their answer to what are the triggers to, so what causes, trigger-wise, borderline personality. And this commenter said, the main trigger for BPD is abuse. The borderline has learned through constant degradation to develop a persona. This persona is friendly, kind, agreeable, oh no, servile, a people pleaser. People with BPD also have codependency, but it doesn't always manifest in the same way as people have codependency without BPD. So yeah, they can be, to a degree, people pleasers, but then a whole lot goes wrong with that. That goes wrong in a different way than what happens to people who are people pleasing because they have codependency. This wasn't on my channel, by the way. This was just on the internet somewhere. Borderline is telling you, quote, I'm nice, don't hurt me, unquote. How many of you have really been able to even discern or assume a message like that once you sort of get further into understanding your codependency and understanding what's happening to you and that it's not okay? Yeah, people with BPD and all that unfortunately nasty, really harmful, negatively impacting behavior on so many people that they're close to or were close to, according to somebody on the internet, it's just them saying, quote, I'm really nice, don't hurt me, unquote. Meanwhile, they're eviscerating you, they're annihilating you. And when they're annihilating you, believe it or not, they're also doing it inside to themselves over and over again with their repetition compulsions. So I don't know. I believe in a little bit of compassion for people with BPD around that, but not around the way they behave and the way they impact people so negatively. Then this person continues, the borderline believes this to be their real self. Well, maybe, but of course we know it isn't, or I hope I would like to inform you it isn't, if you don't already know. Unfortunately for the borderline, they are ceaselessly attracted to narcissists and psychopaths who inevitably use and abuse them. Well, no. Are there some people with BPD that are attracted to or end up with, maybe not on purpose, maybe on purpose, I don't know, narcissists or psychopaths? Sure. But is that every single person with BPD? No, absolutely not. And they continue, and when it is all too much for the borderline, their real self emerges. No, not possible. Arrested emotional development, real self lost, child ego state fragmented off, gonzo, emptiness, no stable identity, no known self, living through a false self. But this person would have it, be a fairy tale for people that come by and read this stuff. So really erroneously, this person says, and when it's all too much for the borderline, real self emerges. Nah. A wild, fearless, secondary psychopath. Absolutely no. It's junk science. It's pseudoscience. These studies have not been replicated. These studies have not been proven. Therefore, ergo, everybody who says this is parroting nothing but flawed ideology. You may be experiencing something that you would agree with that about, but that can be somebody who, they're putting women through the BPD category of diagnosis, whether or not they just have BPD or they could be psychopathic women. That's what's wrong. Plus a whole lot more with psychiatry today. We don't know that at all. And they don't become this fearless secondary psychopath when they get fed up with a psychopath or a narcissist or a person with codependency who's been really good to them. No. And they conclude with, and you don't want to be on the receiving end. Well, as most people know by now, I'm sure everybody knows this, when you first met that person with BPD, you had no idea. And some people, they'll have a series of relationships with people with BPD, and it's with codependency, it's repetition compulsions, it's something being played out from woundedness in your childhood. But the idea that people with BPD are just like really nice, and the real self emerges with with narcissists and psychopaths, and they get fed up, and then, you know, they become these fearless, wild, secondary psychopaths. No, they don't. So I'm going to continue to put it out here as to what is known and what isn't known. And again, this idea that all people with BPD have secondary psychopathy is totally pseudoscience. They're studying stuff, they're arguing with each other, they don't, in America, they don't the American Psychiatric Association, very little, if any, replication of studies. They're all big pharma funded. To do some research on what that really means, because I can't go any further here. So that is a really erroneous example, because also, you know, through the constant degradation, no, for people that go through really adverse, horrible experience in childhood, often with cluster B, a mother or parents, not always, but often, more often than not, they're not just learning through constant degradation. It's way worse than that. It annihilates the self before or by the age of 2. This is an object relations theory. It is still the best explanation that we have to truly understand, right down deep to the core of borderline personality disorder, what it is and why people with it do what they do. And what are the repetition compulsion cycles driven by, and how are they manifesting it? And they're all individuals. They have common patterns, but they don't all have the same patterns. And people with BPD are all very different. And there's 256 symptom combinations, and not everybody has all of them. So let's keep it real to help people to understand and chart your path to heal, or whatever's happening, whatever iteration of a relationship, a ghosting, a final discard, an on-off, whatever you're involved with. And they don't develop a persona. They live, it said persona, oh, this persona is friendly, kind, and agreeable. No, unfortunately, they don't know themselves enough. They've been through too much. BPD is, among other things, primarily a relational disorder, disorganized attachment. They don't know how to love, be loved, or, you know, take in your love, not consistently. And so this idea that they develop a persona, no, when the emotional arrested development happens in young childhood, the false self rises, the self is gone, and they're living through very protective, sly and manipulative and all this defended, you know, false self. Not anything to do with them having identity or an actual even personality. And if you really believe that vilifying people with BPD is going to help you to heal from what they put you through, I'm here to tell you that's just not the case. So people with BPD, I mean, what's being said out there and in many other areas, and I'm not going to speak to it all, that's just atrociously, ridiculously erroneous. And I'm not sure how that's supposed to help anybody. Take care.